Mr. Brichford, could you tell us about, could you introduce yourself?
My name is Charles Brichford. I'm a retired professor of English from Concord University. I've been asked to comment on some parliamentary questions. I have a considerable amount of experience in this, having served as president of the faculty for a number of years, and I taught a course in parliamentary procedure at Concord for 15 years.
Okay, thank you. All right, you have listened to Mr. Maroney's statement that the appointment of Kenny Perdue as the chair of the Board of Appeals was proper according to Robert's Rules of Orders. And but the bylaws of the West Virginia Party has very specific states who can be who can preside: the chair, vice chair, second vice chair, and then 2 associate chairs. And he is not any of those. What can you tell us about Robert's Rules of Order? Is the chairwoman allowed to appoint anyone other than those? Can anybody other than those 5 preside over the Board of Appeals according to Roberts?
Well, there are a couple of issues here. One has to do with the nature of the Board of Appeals, whether it's a board or a committee, because the rules for the appointment of members to boards and the committees are different. The bylaws refer to it as a board, and it has what Roberts considers the characteristics of a board. That is that it is allowed to take independent action, subject, of course, to the review of a larger body. But if the body declines to review it, then what it says goes, whereas committees merely report their findings. The Board of Appeals says that the State Executive Committee chair shall also serve as the chair of the Board of Appeals. Under the Executive Committee, it lists a chain of people who can replace her, but there's only a limited number there. There are 5 listed. And where bylaws list specific possibilities, the presumption is that there are no other possibilities. Roberts, Section 49 on boards states, and I quote, "A society has no executive board, nor can its officers act as a board, except as the bylaws may provide. And when so established, the board has only such power as is delegated to it by the bylaws or by a vote of the society's assembly referring individual matters to it." So only the bylaws govern here, and if there is no provision in the bylaws, there is no board, according to Roberts. Now, if you were to consider it a committee, which would be problematic, it's also not invariably the case that even the chair of a committee has the right to appoint the members. If there's a bylaw specification on that, then Roberts doesn't apply. So that would be my view.
Okay, excellent. And then in the Board of Appeal, in Article 7, Section A, it states that the chair shall preside but have no vote except in case of a tie. On top of the fact that a person who is not allowed through the bylaws or through Roberts to preside over the meeting voted on, not only presided over this board, but then voted. Is that allowed in any shape or form?
Well, this is another difference between committees and boards. The idea of the chair voting is frequently and generally done in committees, but it's not done in the board. And here the bylaws specifically prohibit that, or whether they specify cases where it can be done. So when they say shall have no vote except in a case of a tie, it means they will have no vote except in case of a tie. It's hard to be any clearer than that.
in your opinion, was the Board of Appeals properly constituted? The West Virginia Board of Appeals that had Kenny Perdue as chair and voting, was that properly constituted?
No, it did not have one